Okay, welcome to Crazy Christian Conspiracies number 4, The Dangers of Rock and Roll. It's all evil, every single bit of it. Everything, opera, classical music, jazz. No, it's only rock and roll that's evil. It's only rock and roll, but I like it. So yeah, I was raised up from a very, very young age that Led Zeppelin was evil, Kiss, Black Sabbath, Dio, Deep Purple, did I say that already? Rainbow, etc., etc. Are all evil. It's all influenced by the devil, that these people actually worship the devil in their concerts, and oh my gosh. I was raised to believe so much rubbish. How can one person be raised to believe so much garbage? So what I've done with my new phone is I've just gone out and bought everything, all of them, the Metallica, come on, Metallica, Kiss, Vinnie Vincent Invasion, Judas Priest, Ozzy, Deep Purple, oh, the whole lot. And just have been listening to them. And I've got so many new cool songs that are my favourites. Just songs that I never knew existed. I mean, there's the ones you hear on the radio, but then there's the ones that you don't hear because they were never released as singles. But there's so many songs that weren't released as singles that are really, really cool. I can't give an example because there's just so many of them. You Got Another Thing Coming by Judas Priest. I think it might have been a single, but it was on a compilation tape, cassette tape that I owned. So here's me owning Heavy Metal 1, Heavy Metal 2, Masters of Metal and cassette tapes like that. And I was told that I should take them out and burn them and replace them with Christian heavy metal. So I kind of hid my cassette tapes of Masters of Metal, Metal Mayhem, and all these compilation ones that had, you know, different bands. Guns N' Roses didn't exist. It would have been Thin Lizzy and all this sort of stuff. Ian Gillan solo, After Purple, and all this sort of stuff. Oh, was it? No, it was Ozzy Osbourne, Fast Away, Nightshade. Yeah, the two big New Zealand ones, Stonehenge and Nightshade. Stuff like that, Motley Crue, yeah. So I had those, and I was advised that you should be listening to Christian heavy metal. So then I started buying a big collection of Stryper, White Cross, Res, Saint, Shout, so many of them. Then I got into Hoosh. It was Jeremy. Yeah, introduced to Christian death metal. So started off with Vengeance, went to Mortification, etc. But eventually after that, Jeremy decided that Mortification and Vengeance were now evil, and he'd started getting rid of his Christian heavy metal, Christian death metal. Went to the South Island and met Russell, and he was a huge Mortification fan, so we would sit around listening to this stuff, and his wife would complain that we're listening to evil Christian music and all this. So yeah, really had a journey with that. There's still some Christian heavy metal songs that I have on my playlist that I used to be really into and still kind of enjoy them. There's a couple of solos from Whitecross, just guitar solos, and of course there's the Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which isn't Yngwie Malmsteen, even though you download it under Yngwie Malmsteen. It's actually Ken Templin from Shout does it. Anyhow, so Stryper have recently, or a couple of years ago, released a covers CD where they do covers of Black Sabbath and Kiss songs and stuff, and I think that's cool. But Stryper themselves got into trouble for dressing up in their girly makeup and representing Christ and being drunk, and just that's not how Christians should work and rah rah rah. And of course when what's his face from Vengeance, he was totally hated by the church, absolutely hated, and apparently nowadays he's become a full-blown Satanist or something. Like he's written a lot of hate books towards Christianity, but that doesn't mean he's a Satanist, it just means he's an atheist. Yeah. So yeah, I was raised to believe that listening to rock music draws you away from God, leads you into the occult, that there's a worldwide conspiracy to take over the world for Lucifer through rock music. And here's how the conspiracy works. Conspiracy theories are always, I'd say 99.9% of the time, backwards. They're always backwards, especially the one I learnt last night about how Hollywood pushed their gay agenda by hiring Justin Bieber and stupid things like that. Anyhow, so the conspiracy theories are always backwards. So in the conspiracy theory, a record company would have approached Elvis Presley and Johnny B. Good. Oh God, how can you forget his name? Whatever. And Bill Haley and the Comets and all that sort of stuff. All those musicians, and said, we're going to give you careers. We're going to make you millionaires overnight if you only write these songs, because we have an agenda. In 20 years' time, we want you to start off by writing silly love songs, and we're going to make them darker and darker and darker until 20 years from now, we're going to invent a band called Black Sabbath. We're going to find 4 young lads from Birmingham, was it? Not sure. And we're going to make them sign a contract in blood to the devil for a 50-odd year career, so that we as music labels, so that would mean that Warner Brothers, Sony, whatever the companies were called back then in the 80s, it was the record companies that had the agenda to take over the world for Satan, and they approached the musicians and gave them contracts. It wasn't the fact that musicians wanted to create records and albums and approach music companies for the finances to be able to do that. No. That's not how conspiracies work. So they decided, yeah, let's do satanic music. Let's start small satanic music. Let's do Black Sabbath, Judas Priest. Yeah, they existed back then. I didn't know that until I downloaded a record, this album from 1973 or something. So then they approached Wicked Lester and said, we're going to turn you into Kiss and we want you to influence all the children, millions of children, to become Satanists. And then they got bored with that, so they thought, well, I'm bored with this evil music. Let's make it darker. Let's make it more evil. Let's have Venom release an album. Let's have Slayer release an album. And make it darker and darker. And then the record companies invented thrash music, speed metal, etc. This is a conspiracy theory. And then the record companies got bored with that. And they said, well, let's make it even darker. So they created death metal, and they got bored with death metal, so they created black metal. And so they approached Borgestein, or whatever his name is, and Sweden, and said, you know, we want you to really full on worship the devil, and we're going to pay you and make you records and CDs, and we want you to help our plan to put Lucifer on the throne. We want you to make it as dark and as fast and as harsh as you possibly can. So, whenever you watch Hell's Bells, The Dangers of Rock and Roll, or anything of Eric Holmberg, Hell's Bells 2 I've never watched because I was well out of the conspiracy theory by the time that was released. There was a Dan and Steve Peters brothers about the dangers of rock music. I had the whole collection of Jacob Aranza, the Backwards Masking Unmasked, more Backwards Masking Unmasked, Rock Country and something else Unmasked. So there were books written, there were lectures given. In fact, there's a download. There's a whole download where they played it in churches that was copyright free, and they could play the whole tutorial in churches that went through the whole backwards masking and the dangers of Pink Floyd and Kiss and Sabbath and Styx and ELO and all this sort of stuff. Led Zeppelin, yeah, etc., etc. So what do I believe now? I believe it's all nonsense. I believe that the real thing that happened was people just lost interest in the church because of all the nonsense they've said about Led Zeppelin, Harry Potter, Star Wars, the dangers of alternative religions, and people are just sick of the church's bigotry, basically. That's what's caused them to walk away from the church, rather than it's the rock music that's done it, or Harry Potter that's done it. They're blaming everything. They're blaming everything released in the media, music and movies and books and whatever, and blaming everyone else except themselves. And they're not looking at themselves and going, hey, maybe the spout we're crapping... Sorry, that was a good blooper. Maybe this crap we're spouting about proving the earth is flat and that listening to Pink Floyd is going to make you a fairy, and that reading Harry Potter is going to teach you how to cast spells and you're going to be able to get good grades in school is rubbish. And maybe the church, who's teaching about Jesus Christ, should teach biblical facts and not try and take what they read in the Bible and apply it to modern day anything, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. For it to work, there would have to be things called facts and evidence and case studies and scientific papers published on this child read Harry Potter and is now the head of all the witches in California. It's just stupid. Anyway, move on.